So thank you for your time and patience to be part of this session. And once again, very good morning. First of all, I am humbled, privileged, and honored to be here this morning in front of each one of you. And thanks to ICAI, NIRC, and leaders like them to give me the opportunity to share my experiential perspectives and how to look at GCCs and the brand and the identity of the GCCs in the context of each one of us here. So I'll try to more put in a context rather just generalizing some of the things. And the context I have taken is primarily the leaders. Many of us were part of the GCC space for years, doing a lot of work in this space. But I know a lot of you are sitting here who are not in the GCC space, maybe the practicing chartered accountants, advisory firms who are trying to scale up and become a GCC in the long run. So we're just trying to see in that context what could be the art of possible for each one of us here. Couple of things, I think, can I have that slides? No, not this one, the other one. And if you can give me the slider, navigator, de dijiye. Slides. Okay, do you have that? Yeah, please. Thank you. No, okay. So how many of you are from a GCC space? By show of hands. Okay. How many of you really understand for the last 2 days, everybody is talking about these GCCs, and we say Global Capability Center. How much you have the understanding and appreciation of what is Global Capability Center? How many of you can say, I know it? Okay, few hands. In fact, Rohitji was kind enough to even coin a new term called DCC. In fact, there's a term already existing, which we are using quite often, is called LCC. It's called Local Capability Centers. So it is not that they are not local. There are a lot of local capability centers which exist and can become a global capability centers in India or otherwise other locations. Now, there are two interesting words which I wanted to bring and to highlight to you, and I will cover a few of these components in the next 40-45 minutes, and I would like to spend more time talking with each one of you. You can ask some questions, etc. My intent is to cover these two words, identity and brand. I want to spend some time about perception. I would certainly like to spend a little bit of a time about how you build the GCC's identity. And the last one, what are the opportunities for CAs and advisories firm in this space? I know you all will be in different maturity curves, so something will be relevant for you, something may not be relevant for you. Please pardon me for that, because I could not really try to cover everybody, but I tried to cover as much as possible to really get all the CAs and advisory firms as a part of it. I just have a quick question for all of you, because there was a show of hands to say few of us understands GCCs, right? Very simple way you can respond to this poll question. You can log into, all of you have a mobile phone. If you can log into menti.com, menti.com, menti.com in your phone. And the moment you log into menti.com, it will ask you a code. There's a code written here, 799444103. You are able to get to the menti.com? Right? And you got this code. You just dial this code there, 799444103. Sorted? Everybody got the code? Okay. Now we'll see what is the result. The question was, in your opinion, why do organizations set up GCCs, the Global Capability Centers? Why they do that? And there are some options written here. And I can tell you there will be many more options we all can think of, but I just try to put few options here. They want to consolidate and offshore some of the transactional work. There's a cost optimization. There's an efficiency and enhanced customer experience, access to talent pipeline and specialized skills, innovation continuum and strategic decision making. Yeah, if you could just take that out, yeah. Market expansion and competitive edge. I picked 6 options, and I wanted to hear your thoughts in terms of how do you see the reason for, or what is the reason for setting up a GCCs? Sorry, yes.
I think it has to be all of this.
Yeah, we'll just wait for it, yeah. We'll just wait for it. I'll just give another 30 seconds for people who have not yet completed it. Everybody has got the Menti code. It's a menti.com. You go to the menti.com, there is a code there, 799444103, and you will get this chart updated, real time. While a gentleman there made a point, but I can see there's a lot of views expressed here by each one of you, and very diverse views, right? I mean, cost optimization seems to be leading the chart yet, right? We got the next one is access to talent pipeline in specialized skills, followed by innovation continuum and strategic decision making. This 3 seems to be the, yeah, somebody is still adding more to, okay, innovation is going up, but cost optimization is also going further up, right? Seems to be done, right? Everybody has done that pretty much. I think we have got the idea of it. I think this room, pretty much about 50, 60 odd people, all of you sitting here, you have expressed your views. How do you see a global capability center and the trigger for a global capability center? And you can see the thought that cost optimization still remains to be the priority or the trigger or the purpose for setting up the GCCs. Now, while I think that gentleman made a good point that all of these could be the reason, but the question was about what is that first thing which comes in your mind? So there are many things, but cost optimization. And this is exactly the point where the whole narrative starts about your identity and brand. What you want to communicate about GCCs, what you want to communicate about yourself, and what you want to communicate is as your vision, mission, your focus areas, and how you will be perceived by the world and by your customers will all start from here. And I'll give you a quick example of that, whatever it may be. But you've got a sense of it, right? Just keep it with you. I'll come back and connect this with identity and brand in a minute. Right? Can we just take this chart off the screen? Right. Yeah, just keep it up, yeah. Perfect, thank you. See, there has been this industry, the GCC industry is in existence for almost 3 decades or 3 decades plus. In fact, one of the pioneering GCCs, I know the few of the leaders representing that GCCs are also in the room. They started way back in mid-90s, and it all started by American Express, followed by GE and then many other, setting up their GCC in India. While GCCs like Amex and GE followed a slightly different path in terms of their positioning, but majority of them started by labor arbitrage, which you said cost optimization, labor arbitrage. Let's do the work from a cheaper location. Let's do more of a mundane work, repeatable work, transactional work. Let's do all that from India, and that is the way they all started. Over a period, this entire thing got evolved from what it was called as a resource center, back office, shared services, to global in-house centers, to global business services operations, and then now what we are calling as a global capability center. The question for all of us here, and going back to the chart, is if the starting point even for a shared services resource center was the labor arbitrage and the cost, then what is the difference which we are trying to talk today if you are saying GCCs? Now you can understand the connect to the previous poll and this chart. In 30 years, how are we trying to evolve and what is the positioning we need to change to make it really a capability center. And we'll talk in a minute about that. And I say it very interestingly, many of us landed in this industry by accident. It was not like, I know for a lot of people now, they have a choice to get into this industry, but a lot of us just became part of this industry because this industry was growing, et cetera, et cetera. But what we changed and what many of us changed was we reinvented, built that identity and the brand by looking at what could be done differently. So repositioning ourselves and not remaining the part of the same bandwagon the way it all started. Today, we all know, and I think last 2 days, I don't want to get into it. You have been hearing so many metrics about it, like, there are some 1,900 GCCs, $50 billion of exports, going to grow phenomenally, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not getting into it. But that is the kind of growth which we're talking about. And interestingly, if you see, I know it's a little bottom, everything started with a cost 30 years ago. But over a period, it moved from cost to talent. And many of you were actually selecting the option called talent. And then it moved to what we call value, by saying, how can you deliver a value impact? And over the last few years, it has moved beyond value to what we call innovation. And that is the shift in your positioning which needs to happen if you want to become part of the GCC journey. While cost is given, and I'll give you a very interesting example of a cost, quick 30 seconds, so not to just undermine the value of the cost because each one of you selected cost optimization. There are two parts of the cost. One is a cost due to labor arbitrage, because you're moving the work from somewhere to, let's say, India, you get an arbitrage. And is that the only reason why you want to do it? Is that the only reason why you want to move even from an India company and work to another location and say, I will do it faster and cheaper and so on and so forth? It's only that one time? Maybe not. Innovation will result into a continuous cost optimization. And that's the positioning which has to change if you want to build your credibility from a GCC point of view. And not just, that's a narrative which you have to change versus just saying it's a cost optimization. It's a continuous cost optimization by doing innovation. That becomes the focus area. They're also doing some innovation here, trying to. All right. Want me to help you? I can help you. Just do it. We have to make it faster and quicker, that's all. Yeah. Thank you. Now, there is a journey which has happened over 30 years. I talked about it. I don't want to get into it. I mentioned Amex and GE were the pioneers to start with. They actually took a very different path, unlike many others. I can still tell you there are many GCCs coming to India, the global centers. They are still coming to India for the labor arbitrage. And because that's what we are selling. That's what was the sell story by all of us for the first 15 years, by saying, please come to India, we are a low-cost center, give your transactional work, we'll become your back office. This is what you sold, so this is what you'll become. You kept on selling that I'm a back office, give me your transactional work, which is non-value add. I know I have seen many sales pitch saying, okay, give me your non-value add work. If it was that non-value add, then by design you become non-value add because that's what you're doing. You were doing all transactional work for so many years. And only doing a cheaper work. You're supposed to do cheaper. That was the positioning. We sold it for years. But what companies like Amex did was very different. They went to a complex world first. Like India Center, they went to Japan. And they moved the work from Japan. And I'm talking about 30 years ago, where, today still you have great tools, AIs, converters, etc. 30 years ago, we used to have big dish antennas, like, and internet was like, on the God's will. And some real stuff I've heard where people can press an entry in the system and can go and bring the coffee by the time still it is posting. Right. And that's the kind of a world that took a complex process first. Levers, for example, took another complex stand. Levers went out and said, okay, we'll set up a GCC in India. And they brought, the first work they brought was taxation. Our usual suspect in the GCC world in a finance space would be what? Accounts payable, reconciliation, data entry, invoice posting, correct? Think about Lever's first process they did was taxation. Because their story was the most regulated, most rule-driven work is taxation. In accounts payable, sometimes the company don't even have a policy document. They don't even have a delegation of authority. But in a taxation, you can't have anything like which you have a very measured rule and everything. That's better and best to move a work. So they went a different positioning, and that's why when you see their GCCs, they are highly matured. Highly matured. Because the first step of their positioning was not that I will do cheaper and give me a non-value add work. That's the first thing they change as a positioning. And my humble request is if you really want to make, and this is what I think the ICAI is also trying to do, they're saying, move from ledgers to strategy, we want to rule the world. That is a positioning shift which you're trying to make. You've done it for years accounting. Yes, sir.
See, both examples that you've given of the initial GCCs, it was the customer, rather the person who was doing the processing abroad, he wanted to bring that process to India, the complex process, rather than just mundane work. So how do we basically convince somebody who is not willing to bring that work to India?
No, absolutely, fair point. But it's about the story, right? Absolutely. See, and I'll answer your question very quickly. While your question is, if I have to put it in perspective, there was some decision maker which said, okay, we'll do complex work and we'll do from India. How can we go and talk to a decision maker and explain to them, oh, we can do a complex work for you? And I'll talk about that. The good thing happened, sir, here is that still you are not taking a first move. 30 years, this industry has moved to a stage where the engineering designs are being made here and there are examples available. I'm just giving you example. When we, as an organization, we were doing first time a shared services organization 20 years ago for a customer like Ranbaxy, we had to really do a understanding of what AstraZeneca is doing, what Novartis is doing, what Pfizer is doing. They may not be my customer. So what was available at that point of time was a reference stories available, and that is what we need to do. There are a lot of reference stories available. We need to do our own R&Ds to know those reference stories and then go back to our customers and explain to them, hey, look, this is what a company A has done. This is what company B has done. So why can't I do it for you? It's my narrative. But finally, you end up doing some transaction also, and I'll also talk about transactions are important, by the way. But how you position, it's about story. See, right now, it's not about should you do that or not. I wanted to clarify that. We are not talking about should I do an accounts payable or transactional work at all. Absolutely, you should do that. Whole point is about how you want to position yourself, your narrative. That's the point. Yes, ma'am.
In aviation industry, lot of accounting is done by Excelia. So Excelia provides a lot of information like how much was the revenue, what was the basis of difference in one day to other day. But how we can differentiate this with the GCC, because the final decision lies with the airline only. So how strategically we can help to the client that this is where you can take a first step rather than the competitor.
No, absolutely. I think I'll come to that question. Allow me a minute to come back to that question. I think your question is more about that there is a lot of work which is done by an operator, but beyond a maturity of the work is done still by the parent company or the customer company, which is Airline Air. And how can we communicate to the airline that can we give this work to a partner who can do this nature of work and so on and so forth. That's a question which you have, right?
Secondly, I believe that the person who is actually into the organization, they know the whole nitty-gritty of that organization. The GCC center doesn't know that nitty-gritty.
Absolutely.
So how they will be able to take decision on
So you responded. I'll just talk about it. I'll just give 30 seconds. This is exactly the point. This is exactly the point. The point is all about perceptions. Perceptions is the reality. So, sorry. Yeah. So this is the reality. What happens, I have an intentions, and I wanted to give you a sense of it, and this is where I will quickly talk about, oops, this is all moving all by itself for some reason. It is very critical to establish your brand to understand first the perceptions. I think this is moving somehow. Can I stop it? उसको रोक सकते हैं आप उसको? बस छोड़ दीजिए लोग करके ठीक. So the interesting thing is that you can see there are three circles here. The intentions. Intentions are I want to do it. What is my behavior which connects to the intentions? And then finally, what is the perception? Now the two words which I initially talked about is identity and brand. How many of you understand the difference between identity and brand? I'm assuming all of you, but still a show of hand will be helpful. The difference between identity and a brand, right? Oh, there are few hands. So for the benefit of others, just to share, identity is something which is about me as a company. What is my vision, mission, what I want to do, what is that offering I would like to have, how do I present myself, what is my value system, is all my identity. While brand is how my identity is perceived by my prospect or a customer or external world or a regulator or whatever it may be. So my intent to perception, which is my brand, this is all about behaviors. So my intent and behaviors, which I am actually building as a part of my identity, connects to what? To the perceptions, the way your brand will be viewed. The perception that you can't do because you are supposed to be a service provider, because you can't do because you are supposed to be a transactional service provider, is a perception which we have created many times based on the narrative, the intentions, and the behavior which we are demonstrating. And this is very true for many organizations I can share with you. They have started by saying, and as I was sharing that, they have started by saying, I'll do a non-valued work. So what you have done? You have set the precedence that this center is supposed to be doing a transactional work and non-valued work. I give you a very interesting example. We were doing shared services or GCCs almost like 20 years ago, and somebody asked a question by saying, now you're trying to move me into this GBS, GCC organization. Is it a reward posting or a punishment posting? Think about many of you CEOs, and they were the CS guys, I mean. They asked a question by saying, is it a reward posting or a punishment posting?
Is the difference of perception which you mentioned.
That's the whole point, right? I can give you example as recent as about maybe 10 years ago. And the gentleman who was supposed to be, and this is a real story of an automobile company, we set up their GBS, GCCs. They have multiple business unit. So one of the business finance guy of that company who's supposed to be like, tipped to be the number 2 and will become the CFO of the company. That's the way he thought his journey will be. He was a CFO for one of the large business unit. And when we were doing the entire blueprinting for the GCC, and I took a liberty to talk to the CEO of the company, and he asked me who could be the internal leader to take over that role, the GCC head role. And I recommended that guy who was a business CFO for that business unit. Can you believe what he told me? He said, I thought you were my friend. He said, I thought you were my friend. How can you recommend? You have really stopped my career. I can't grow. My career has come to the end just because of your recommendation. And same guy, after 3 years, he became the blue-eyed boy of the entire board, and he grew faster than many of his peers. He actually took a leap to become the global internal audit head, reporting directly to the board, and so on and so forth. He realized the power of it. But initially, what was his view? It is going to be an end of his career. So it's all about narrative. So what is important here is perception. Now, I'll give you a perception of GCCs. There are 2 pages here. That's a perception. Now, many of you can figure it out. What's your perception about the GCC industry? Luxury travels, you have US offices, Europe offices, interaction with senior management, great lifestyle, some wine and dine, visiting new places, or meetings and meetings. Sometimes I do like this on the left-hand side. Multiple expectations, work stress, grind plus grind plus grind, whatever it may be. Now, either of this is your perception. you may take that the previous one is all about GCC, or you may consider the next one as your perceived connect to the world of the GCC. This is all perception, right? For the last 2 days, we have been talking that this is the world. This is the world. Last 2 days, everyone standing in the podium, in that hall or this hall, is saying this is the world. But neither is true. It's a combination of both. It's a combination of both. And that's all about, sorry? I mean, it's a combination of both. And it's a perception. I leave it to your choice. How do you feel it? I think again, just giving, I think a lot of you talked about transaction. I think I just wanted to clarify that transaction is important. It's about the narrative. Transaction is still important, and why we call it transaction is important because transactions only lead to the transformation. Otherwise, keep on saying I'll do value-added services will sound like a hollow statement if you don't even understand the world of transaction. So you need to understand the operational work. You need to understand how accounting is connected to that operational stuff, how reporting is connected to that accounting, and how the analytics is connected to that. If you don't understand that pyramid, process pyramid, and saying I only want to do analytics without understanding operational stuff is not going to happen. You need to understand that. And you all are very good in knowing this, so I don't need to spend time here. But that is the perception. Sometimes our customer believes that you can only do operational stuff. While we can do analytical work, but we need to establish that credibility. To your point, we need to establish that credibility. We need to reposition ourselves. We need to have a different narrative to establish that, yes, we can do it. So when you go and talk to a customer tomorrow and say, I can do only your non-value add work, I can do all your transactional work, I'm a low-cost company, then you are asking for only this. But if you go back and tell them that I can do all this, I can do this as well, I have that capability of doing it, but I may start from here for you. What you're doing is you're changing the narrative. Are you with me on this? This is another one, just to give you another side of the story, the value chain. This is where a lot of time you've heard about the value-added services. A lot of time people say value-add services, we do value-add services. But I can tell you without understanding what value-add services means. Majorities don't know what value-add services means. And I'm generalizing it, but I'm still making a very sincere statement. Majority don't know. Transaction processing, by design, your mindset is about timeliness, what is the accuracy, how was the first pass done, etc., etc. Then you look at things like functional excellence. And all these are important as a part of it. Even risk management, I'm trying to say, is a part of functional excellence. Control and compliance is still not value-added services, by the way. They're still functional excellence. Functional excellence to value-add service is a leap. And there's a huge opportunity for many of us sitting in this room to take a leap from transaction to functional excellence and to functional excellence to value-added services, where we can talk about how will I do a revenue assurance for you. There's a leakage, I'll figure it out how to handle it. I'll work with you to drive your DSO. Those kind of conversations are very, very important to say, how will I manage your bottom line impact? Not by just removing one FT. You think about it, I'll just give you a metric. You guys are very good in terms of understanding numbers. Let's say company revenue is 100. The cost of finance function, very bloated finance function, assume it is very high cost, will be still what, 2%? Usually it is supposed to be 0.5%, but let's say still 2%. I'm giving the benefit of doubt to that company for some reason. In that 2%, let's assume you have 50 people, and you say out of 50 people, 25 people needs to be in that internal company. In the balance stream, 25 people who are the low-cost people, I will reduce it from 25 to 20, 5 FTs. Now you think the value which you are impacting to that company. Your value delivered to that company is absolutely minuscule. Is it required? Yes, it is required. It is hygiene. It's like brushing your teeth in the morning. No one comes to the office and says, oh, today morning I brushed my teeth. Any one of you do that? No, I took a shower today morning. We don't do that, right? I mean, I'm assuming that none of us. My daughter does still. Sometimes in the morning she'll tell me, my daughter does it. Oh, I've taken a shower, I've taken a brush. I'm assuming all of us will not do that, right? So some of this has become hygiene, so much of hygiene, right? But if you go and tell this customer, the CFO, by saying, hey, look, you have your purchase cost, which could be 20% or 25% of direct purchase or indirect purchase. I'm just taking example. Or you have a DSO, which is like a big challenge for you. It is 130 days, and your working capital is getting screwed completely or skewed completely, whatever it may be. I'll work with you to see how can I bring your interest rate down, and I'll bring you the cost of funds down, and I'll work with you to see how can I bring your receivables faster by 20 days. Or I understand you maybe have revenue leakage due to whatever it is of this %, and I'll work with you to see how can I bring it down. But of course, for that, what you need is the transactional information. That's why transaction to transformation. But your narrative is different. Your communication is different. I still have time, right? Now, this is something I wanted to give you quickly on the connecting with identity and the brand, because I think I had some questions before even the session started. This is the traditional way the companies were looking at building their identity. There are multiple models, but I picked up this model because we personally believe into this model for a long time. This is a model given by a person by name, management guru by name, Kenichi Omayo, a Japanese guy. And he said there are 3 C's, which is company or corporation, he uses the word corporations, customer, and competition. So when you are developing your identity, you look at these 3 things by saying, your company means what kind of resources you like to have, what kind of capabilities you have, what is the objective, vision, mission you need to have, what's your service offering, what's your strength, weaknesses, offer, etc. That is your, which is you. That's a company. The second part is customer. Whom are you going to sell? Who is the final recipient of the services? Who is the target audience? What are their preferences? Right? What are their expectations? How they perceive the value. The perception again comes here from the customer, how you perceive the value. And the last but not least is the competition. Do you understand your competition? Do you know your competitive landscape? Do you know what your rivals or your competitors, what are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? They may be whatever it is, that doesn't matter. I give you an example of a very interesting conversation I had recently in US. It's a $50 million MN dollar CDMO, which is a contract generics manufacturing company. But they're competing with a $46 billion company in the same segment. A $50 million company in US is competing with a $46 billion company because both of them have the similar product. Now the first choice is by saying, why do I even need to know about my competition? They're too big, they have everything. The second choice was for them to say, oh, let me understand what they're doing, what are their strengths, how they're positioning themselves, and can I do my narrative and story differently? And that's what they did. So understanding these 3 C's is typically what we call as a strategic triangle. But what we did in the GCC world based on our experience, as I mentioned to you, unlike many of you, I have never done accounting, but what I have done is I have managed accounting transitions, I have managed transformations, been 20 years in the GCC space, and I take a lot of pride in saying that we as an organization have created 150,000 jobs in India by our strategies, which we worked with our customers and companies. We worked with our customers to create those strategies, which brought 150,000 job opportunities to India. With that experience, what we did was we changed the 3 C's to what we call 4 C's. And that is where is a huge opportunity for each one of us. And the 4th C is what we call collaboration. So I talked about company, customer, competition, and collaboration. That is what we added as a part of this entire positioning. Right. Just to give you a quick view of it, and there could be more bullets which can be added, but just want to give you a quick view of it, what company means. Let's say company is a GCC enabler, GCC provider, GCC company, whatever it may be. First, they need to understand what is the genesis, what is the purpose. Do they want to become a back office company, or they want to really become a capability center? And moment you say capability, what kind of capabilities? Are you talking about a capability in terms of expertise around AI? A lot of AI discussions have happened, some news picking up AI, and again I can go in AI and talk for hours, but that's not the idea. First, you have to define what you want to be. What is the purpose of the GCC? People say, what's in name? But name matters. I give you an example, and I'm just going back again, and Ravi is here, he'll remember it. He was actually the guy who created it. 20 years ago, Grace, Ravi recall Grace for Ranbaxy. Because the moment we said, okay, we are going to do a shared services for their perception, they were saying, come on, what shared services for a pharmaceutical company, right? Finance and accounting, what is that? So to communicate, I'm talking still 20 years ago, we created a, that whole division was called Grace. Grace was Global Ranbaxy Accounting Center of Excellence. So they started looking at Grace with a lot of grace. And you not believe it, we started with 30 odd FTs in that center, with typical processing we all can talk about. And finally, when Sun Pharma took over that company, it had annual report getting published, printed from that shared services of the GCC. Many times we can't even imagine that, right? That's the level of maturity it traveled. So it's about mindset. We need to have a how part of it. You'll be hollow if you don't have a how. You need to have a roadmap to make how you're going to make a difference. For example, I've given a lot of terms. Don't worry about it, even if you remember one or two is fine and can reach out to me for a lot of words. You can create your own words. Like we talk about something like, center of excellence we say is still like, is given. We're talking about something now which is required to make a GCC really happen is COX and COING. COX is center of expertise. If you're just center of excellence, you are doing still an operational excellence. But you need to create a center of expertise and go beyond center of expertise to create center of innovation and growth for your parent company, for your customer organization. That is why COING becomes very, very critical. That's where you really demonstrate I'm a capability. Of course, there'll be a roadmap. You can't have everything overnight, but that's a roadmap which you need to establish as a part of your why and putting it a what. From a customer point of view, I'm taking customer as a headquarter, your parent company, your customer organization, a client organization. There's a huge perception gaps. What we believe, what they believe. Like a lot of conversation happened here. I think what we believe, what they believe is very different. What we believe that, oh, we are the best of the world. They believe that you are only asked to do instruction seekers. Let me tell you what to do and you will do it. Just pass this entry, don't ask me questions. Right? That's the perception gaps. Now you think with that perception gap you are going to become the GCC? No. But with that perception gaps, how are you going to fill the perception gaps? Do you understand that? And then build on it is going to be very, very important. And that's where I think a lot of time we miss it. There's a term which we talk very much as a part of our DNA is, we say VP to BD. Because what has happened now is there's a VD is value delivery. Everybody across the industry you go and talk about, they will say value delivery, value delivery, value delivery. Yeah, value delivery kar rahe. But how are you doing value delivery? How are you doing value delivery? Do you understand value delivery? First thing to do a value delivery is you need to establish value potential. Like in our job, what first thing happens in the beginning of the year is what? KRAs? We put up goals. If you don't put a goal from a value delivery point of view, how can you deliver value if you have not put a potential to it? So if you say your DSO is 100 days, I'll bring it down to 80 days, that is value potential and you bring to the value delivery. That's the way you can do it. VP to VD as a part of it. You need to have a clear narrative, engage with your stakeholder, make sure they understand what you're talking about as a value delivery. I think there's something which is not coming clearly is relationship. You need to spend time to build that relationship. Competition, being aware is first thing first. Who all are operating in the same space? What are they trying to do? How they are different? Second, talent war. We are under really a talent war. While there's a lot of other real war also is happening, but I think we are really in the midst of talent war. How will you attract and retain talent? Otherwise, you're going to lose them to your competition. Cost to value proposition. If your cost and value, because sometimes we believe, and I've seen with 11 large GCCs, is they don't even know their fully loaded cost. Simple thing, FLC as we call it. They know their people cost. They don't know the fully loaded cost. So when they're comparing with the market, they have no clue. That's why they need to have a clue about their own cost. That is fully loaded cost to connect to the value which they're delivering. Otherwise, it becomes another challenge from perception point of view. And learn best and next practices as a part of competition. Last but not least, and this is where we have added something called collaboration, and this is where I will say is a very important C for you all and all of us here, depending upon your maturity and journey. Always look for, instead of reinventing something, see how can I leverage some of the best skills, specialized skills available. This world is all about collaboration. Always look at external expertise as a springboard. Not just the capacity, but capacity plus capability. That external expertise, the springboard, is very critical. And last but not least on the collaboration is CAPEX to OPEX. Why to do a lot of capital investment if you can get many of these as a service model? A lot of technology, a lot of partnerships are available as a service. So we can move from a typical CAPEX to OPEX as a service model as a part of collaboration. Just the last point here, just to share with you, is that the companies which are already in your typical GCCs, where you are in a maturity, and we have defined it as part of my industry forum, we have defined it by saying there's an L1 to L5 possible. L1 is a process center. L2 makes it your service center, what you are servicing. L3 is value center. For last 2 days and many other forums and many other places, we're all talking about GCC is equal to value office, value center. That is still level 3. That's a point to draw your attention. That is still level 3. If you have an advantage and an opportunity to take a leap of faith and go beyond a value center to become a strategic center or become an enterprise center. There's a full maturity model available on the SSF portal, and you can look at that. But what is more important is how will you leverage collaboration and that capability which you create to deliver through a commitment. If you don't commit, like for example, many of us will be scared to commit, oh, I'll bring your DSO down by 20 days. If you don't do that, you will still remain as a process center or a service center. I'm just finishing with the last page. Do I have a few minutes more, or is it like time up? I don't know, somebody has to say. Another 2-3 minutes? Can I take another 2-3 minutes? Okay, fine. This is the slide basically for you all here, the opportunities for CAs and advisors, how you can leverage this entire world of the GCCs. You know, many of you are aware there are about 80,000 plus, and this is growing as a number already in GCC, GBS space. The tier 2 cities are really becoming very much popular, so you don't even need to be in metros. Of course, a few of us are already here. A lot of these global companies are willing to come and set up in tier 2 cities. For example, we are actually working with governments to drive some of these tier 2 cities. We are going to cities like on 3rd July, me and my team is in Jaipur. We are trying to look at Jaipur as a location. We are working with Coimbatore, Bhubaneswar, Indore, Ahmedabad. And these are the kind of new locations which you're talking about. You need to, of course, look at redesigning the entire thing, but the most critical piece is a mindset shift. If our mindset is going to be the same what we were doing it earlier, we will not make a dent, will not be able to make an impact. So we need to make a mindset shift overall. And I don't want to get into all. Of course, feel free to reach out to me in the interest of the time. I think I'll just pick a couple of them quickly. One is it's an interesting term which I created, is called DAU. How many of you know what is BAU? You know BAU? Show of hands, what is that BAU? Business as usual, right? BAU is business as usual. DAU is a new term which I created, is called disruption as usual. Gone are the days where BAU was BAU. Now you have to make DAU as what? BAU. Disruption as usual. So it is not about disruption outside. You create your own disruptions and make them as a part of your life as usual. That is the only way you can make a difference if you really want to playing big in the GCC space. This is for all the CAs and the advisory firms here. And how will you do that? I'm giving another two interesting terms. And please bear with me, these two terms again. Don't take me literal on this, but this is reality. There's a term called MD and a CM. MD means what? Sorry? MD is what? Managing Director. And CM is Chief Minister, right? No. In our finance fraternity, for all of us who want to play in GCC, MD is, in the disruption and usual, MD is master of disasters. Challenge whatever is happening, status quo. And CM is what? Chaos monkeys, who create chaos. If you don't create chaos and you keep on just saying, you know, this is the way it has to be done, this is the way it has to be done, this is the way it has to be done, then you're not curious. So you need to ask the questions, challenge the status quo, be the master of disasters, be the chaos monkeys. The only difference is don't be the master of disaster, just open, you know how to disrupt it, but you also need to take ownership and accountability to fix it as a part of a DAU. There are other things, the touch points, journey, I just want to skip it in the interest of the time. I think the team is waiting. These are the career opportunities and many more which has happened. People started with doing typically a process role, process specialist role, functional role, finance role, reporting role, VP reporting, etc., etc. And they moved into a very different kind of roles today, playing roles like techno-process lead. I know people who are leading technology, CIOs, who were the typical chartered accountants playing a processing role in a GCC. Transformation leader, they became program leaders, they became business leaders. They are actually the CEOs of the firm just by the virtue of understanding the transaction and connecting with the transformation. So these are various career opportunities available for the aspiring CAs and their journey. With this, thank you. And let's build not just centers, but let's build bold global brands. We all should build brands, global brands. And this is me. Thank you, all of you, for patiently listening to me. I don't know if you have a time, any questions if you want to have, I'm happy to take it. I don't know, we have a minute. Can I take one question or two? Okay, if any questions? Yeah. I think you have asked, I think somebody's there. I'll come back to you if you don't mind, sorry. I think if you don't mind passing the mic to him. My friend there sitting at the back, yes please. Here's the questions. I'll come back to you for sure. There's two questions. Yes, sir.
Yeah, sir, first of all, I want to thank you for a great session.
Thank you.
I'll give a little bit of background about myself and you'll know where I'm coming from. So 5 years back, I was working with PwC. That time it was called SDC, but it is not now an acceleration center. And that time I related with your PPT that they were also doing the processing work and now they've shifted totally to client-face work. So that was PwC. And but I'm not associated with PwC as of now. But yeah, I'm doing my local practice and I have clients in US as well. But as an individual CA, my target audience are the SMEs, right? So how do I position myself as an individual CA if not talking about the cost? Because my only selling point comes to cost at the end of the day. For the SMEs, I know when PwC is working with mutual funds, so PwC is working for a lot of years as SDC. And they have established their trust and they can transform.
I've understood your question. So let me ask a counter question back by saying what SME wants. They want to have a bottom line impact by the cost reduction.
Yep.
And what else they want? Forget about you, what they want to do in their life. They want to what? Grow.
Yeah.
right?
Grow, yeah.
Can you talk to them and say, I'll work with your growth? I'll make a top line impact for you. I'll make a cash flow impact for you. I'll make a AR impact for you. Right?
Okay.
Of course, I'll do a cost optimization. That is given. I'm not saying don't talk about cost. Please let me clarify that. I'm saying please talk about cost. But what are they looking for? They are also looking for growth. They're looking for the cash flow impact. They're looking for the AR. Why can't we talk about that? No, it is not easy. If you start just talking without having a capability, then there's a problem. You need to build that capability. The choice is either you build your in-house capability by inventing it or you partner with people. There are a lot of tech solutions which can help you to do that. So why don't you go to tech ecosystem and ask for them by saying, oh, I can do this for you. I can monitor your DSO better. That's a narrative. Sorry, you were having a question. Back to you. I think she was having a question. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
So-
I think everybody's waiting for me to close.
Yeah, sorry. Just one quick question. What was the first year like for you, basically, and what was the actionables that you took probably, being in a very nascent industry at that point of time? So those can be actionables for us as well. Also, if you were starting today, how would you start? Like, how would the
Well, a
first
good
year-
question. Can I take this separately offline with all of you outside? Huh? So I don't mind spending time. I think everybody's waiting here, so I can have a separate chat outside with few of you on that. Absolutely fine. Yes, ma'am. Want the same question? Okay, fine. So then Okay, so we'll spend time separately outside. I think everybody's waiting for me to close the session here, so I'd like to close the session. Thank you, each one of you, for your patient listening. Appreciate that. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Rakesh Sinha, sir, for delivered a comprehensive and engaging session. We really appreciate your valuable time and efforts. Now, I would like to see Hitesh Goyalji, the Vice Chairman of NIRC of ICAI, to present the live memento of Mr. Rakesh Sinha, please.